Hello, hello. Welcome back to another. Uh, I've already messed up. Hello, guys. Welcome back to another JJK video. Best new gen anime, by the way. But yeah, we're gonna be going over a pretty cool Sukuna theory that I came up with actually doing research for a Sukuna versus Yuji video. And shout out that one dude who wanted to see the vid. It's still in the works, but it's very extensive. You need to understand both these two characters, Yuji and Sukuna, but we really don't have a lot for both in terms of where they're gonna go in the story. Cause to do that, we're gonna need the past and the present. You know, for Yuji and Sukuna, we have the present, but we don't really know too much about their past. But it's in the works. It's in the works. So I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a Sukuna vid right now, and then I might either do a Yuji video or I'm gonna talk about Yuji extensively in the Sukuna versus Yuji video. But yeah, let's jump right into the theory. So this theory is gonna be going over Sukuna and Yuji's distant relatives, plus Tengen's connection to Sukuna and his relatives. So to start off with, we know Sukuna is the urban legend of Ryomen Sukuna from 2005 and not Sukuna Bikona no Kami, who was the first mentioning of Sukuna in the Nihon Shoki, I believe. And my reasoning for this is, I think, pretty solid. So in the urban legend of Ryomen Sukuna, the nature of Sukuna is more so tailored toward what we know, and it also mentions the black box Sukuna has, mentions mummification, and it mentions being a cursed object as well as a walking natural disaster. And in the beginning of the manga, the first thing we see is Megumi talking about, oh, why do they leave a cursed object here? And he's talking with someone on the phone, which is Ichiji, or I probably butchered his name. I'm so sorry, but it's like the driver. And this is pretty much how the urban legend went. It was like the main character talking about someone, about the cursed object of Ryomen Sukuna. So yeah, and then the folklore about Sukuna Bikona, the first mentioning of Sukuna in history, he is mentioned as a dwarf and is credited to helping humanity by bringing things like agriculture to mankind, which is very much not like our Sukuna. Those are my reasonings for Sukuna being the urban legend and not the Kami. During the Nara period, when Tengen brought Jujutsu, we see the first records of Ryomen Sukuna in history. This is where Gege begins the story of our Sukuna and his first decades as a human, said to have been hunted as a monster by court officials. And Gege comments about Sukuna as a human, and he pretty much says that he was a human, but if his surroundings or himself thought of him as a human is a different story. So my idea is like how the first records of Ryomen Sukuna in history were him being like said to be a monster is basically how Sukuna was as a human. Everyone saw him as a monster. So the timeline of Sukuna being in an art period is sort of weird because we don't know how long Sukuna lived before he was a cursed object. And it was said Sukuna turned into a cursed object during the height of the Heian era. So placing him in the Nara period would mean he lived about maybe close to 380 to 400 years. I have some ideas that may be able to place him in the Nara period. So Sukuna talks about knowing Yamata no Orochi's curse technique. And Sukuna compares Maharaga's adaptation to Yamata no Orochi. So pretty much what is Yamata's curse technique? It's flame manipulation. We know this because in Death, Yamata drops a sword which uses wind to manipulate fire. And Sukuna probably fought Yamata and used flame arrow, and Yamata counters it. So going back to Sukuna Bikona, it's said that he was a part of bringing Buddhism to Japan along with foreigners or a Sukuna tribe on a boat of mirrors. The translation of the boat is a boat of mirrors. That took a long time to find, by the way. And on this ship, we also see an 8-handled sword, which is a little cool thing. That's part of Maharaga's name. Hanging on a tree. What tree exactly? A Masaki tree. And we see this Masaki tree later when Sukuna is using the mummy to compensate for the last finger. And as well, you also see the tattoo on Sukuna's shoulder, which looks like the mirror that was hung up on the tree with the 8-handled sword and a bead. So that's a pretty cool connection there. And then talking about this Sukuna tribe that Sukuna Bikona brought to Japan, during the early Nara period, the same court who had tried to exterminate Ryomen Sukuna was said prior to that to have chased away the Sukuna tribe or foreigners brought to the Aizawa region. And the emphasis on chased away. So they sort of like get away and no one knows what really happened to them. This is where my theory is stated exactly. I believe that Yuji and Sukuna shared his tribe as distant relatives, and I have a few reasons to back this up. My first reason is the obvious resemblance of Yuji's family to Sukuna and his grandpa specifically. And we see when Yuji's first talking to his grandpa's talking about how he wants to mention his parents. He's like, oh, it's about your parents. And we know there's a lot of weird stuff with his parents. But yeah, his grandpa looks like Sukuna, his dad looks like Sukuna, he looks like Sukuna. And that's obvious for us to see. My next reason is that Sukuna mentions Yuji being from that time, hinting at some sort of connection to the past Sukuna is familiar with. We also see Kenjaku specifically choose Yuji's father to have a baby with. And this is because Yuji's genes are needed in specifically caging Sukuna, so they will be able to keep Yuji alive in order to regain Sukuna's strength without them just straight off killing him. Because if, say, Megumi was the one, because Megumi is able to hold Sukuna, but he's a vessel, not a cage. So say Megumi was the one who ate that finger that day. Basically, Sukuna would have control and they would immediately kill Megumi. Kenjaku doesn't want this. He wants Sukuna to be able to slowly build up strength without having a specific worry of him being killed off. That's why he gets Yuji to be the vessel, because he can cage Sukuna and hold him while they collect fingers to get and execute him. So yeah, and also if it was, that's why, and if Kenjaku just randomly chose someone, he didn't have to turn into a woman. Like, could have just made it with someone as a man. Okay. It's so crazy. Okay. So if none of that proves the connection, then I believe Tengen might help you understand how they are related and how it all comes full circle. But specifically, we need to prove Sukuna Bikona's existence. So I just wanted to show you this panel where these people question praying to Sukuna for their crops when Sukuna Bikona is the god of agriculture and not Ryomen Sukuna. And then now to Tengen's connection. Tengen was said to have also brought Buddhism along with Jujutsu to Japan. And Buddhism was something Sukuna Bikona had with him, but he wasn't the one who specifically brought it. Sukuna Bikona wasn't alone when coming to Japan. He was accompanied by someone named Okuninushi no Mikoto. I believe Okuninushi is Tengen for two reasons. My first reason being that, like Tengen, Okuninushi was the one who specifically brought Buddhism to Japan. And my second reason is when Kenjaku mocks Tengen for trying to be like Sukuna. And if Tengen was friends with Sukuna Bikona, then her having a vague obsession with someone connected to him makes sense. Okuninushi, when first meeting Sukuna Bikona, and I believe Okuninushi is Tengen, so Tengen, when first meeting Sukuna Bikona, was intrigued, like very intrigued, so much that he went to other gods to find out his identity. And Tengen in the present never really mentions Sukuna, like she's trying to avoid the topic. So that's sort of the connection between Tengen and Sukuna, and Kenjaku saying, oh, is this what you wanted? You wanted to look like him? Like mocking him that, oh, you wanted to look like someone you're obsessed with. So yeah, this theory banks on a lot of things, but it was really fun researching and getting some cool insight on lore and just the names behind all these people. But I was trying to find out who Kenjaku was, and I just couldn't find out who he was. Like, Kenjaku's such a mystery to me. And maybe one day I'll research a Kenjaku theory. But I think Kenjaku is probably just his own original character, and there's a lot of things you can do with that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, I have a lot of ideas for Jujutsu Kaisen content, and I specifically have the Sukuna versus Yuji theory video I want to make, along with maybe reviewing chapters every week, because it seems like every time a chapter comes out, people sort of jump to conclusions, especially with the newest one, JJK 237, and I feel like I could bring good insight or just cool opinions on every chapter. And then also, I keep seeing Megumi disrespect everywhere, and I'm someone who actually really likes Megumi. So I could make a whole video on Megumi just about his character, about how I think he's gonna be saved, and just going over everything that he did. So if you guys want that video, say it in the comments, and like and subscribe. I want to know that you guys want these types of videos, and I do a lot of research into these videos. It's really fun, but of course, I want to know that you guys enjoy it as well. Thank you so much. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Comment if you want me to make the reviews every week for the chapters. And yeah, Yuji versus Sukuna theory video coming soon. Soon. Bye.